We are waiting for Fixing My Faith. So I think you can go live.
Well, hello everyone. It looks like we are live. And welcome to Fixing My Faith. So I'm just going to turn the lights on here. Maybe I'll get my good wife. She's going to turn the lights on so you can see me. Ooh. We have our back lights on. We have our front lights on. Now you're in our new studio. And this is all the way from New York. Not really. So we can do a lot with this studio. So my wife showed me a lot. And we have our new theme up there. We can take that down, put that up. I can disappear. I can reappear. And then I can take the image right away and I can be in front of whatever we're discussing. Or maybe you just want to see the article. You see, so we have a lot of options now with the new studio. So what do you guys think? And we'll change it up from time to time, but today we're going to be going to New York for this broadcast actually, and we're going to be taking a look at the Watchtower closely. So we have a thumbs up, everything's good, so everything's working. So eventually, as you can see from the studio screen, we'll be able to pull in callers, and right on the screen here we could pull in callers and things like that. So right now I'm going to just talk a little bit about some of the JW news, and we'll get rid of a few of these backdrops, and we'll go right into some of the research here. Now, I'm going to sit here in front of the screen. Now, what's interesting here is I think I can, I'm on my camera here, and I think I can move myself over right here. So then you guys can see me and also see the screen. So here we are. This is some of the research I was doing on the Watchtower. And when you plug it in, everyone wonders what we apostates do. I would have never believed once I started down this track. Someone wants to meet everyone. Come on, kitty. Come on. No. I thought the kitty was going to come and see you, but not tonight. My good wife put the cat out of her misery. Put her in the basement. But she's very friendly. She likes to come here, and lots of times when I'm working, she comes and lays by my feet and purrs. And it's relaxing, some of the research that we do. But we've been doing research on the Watchtower dumping chemicals, and I've been wanting to do a deeper dive because I don't think I really covered it right on some of my other broadcasts. And so the first article I was pulling up, and we'll get a few ads on the side here, don't worry about that. This Warwick. And then I wanted to know where Warwick is. So when I go to the Google map and I go Watchtower Warwick, New York, it takes me to the world headquarters right here at Tuxedo Park. So I guess that's Warwick. That's what we're looking at here on this article. Oftentimes I'm getting confused. They have the Watchtower Farms, then they have Warwick, which is sometimes called Tuxedo Park, or, well, I just know it as the headquarters. So here we're talking Warwick, and this would be the headquarters, Tuxedo Park. It says the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society is suing International Nickel and several of its affiliates, which it accuses of contaminating land where the religious group is now building its massive 1.6 million square foot world headquarters. So this report here is, let's look at a date on it. It's 2015. So it's kind of old. I was just looking for the chemical dumps, and I'm wondering, is this it's a town of Warwick. This is the headquarters. is that Bible headquarters that new? You know, if anybody has comments, certainly put them into the comment section. But I'm just wondering how new the headquarters really is. Now, some of the comments here, hi Sherry, and hi Kingdom Apologetics, Daniel, and David, hi David Wittenberg. Now, my wife just left. She'll be back. She's going to show me how to bring this chat thing back up so I can see what's going on it. But I'm going to go back to the news article, and I'll come back and see you guys in a bit here. But we're just trying to unravel this whole Watchtower, all the land that they have, and what's going on with contaminated land, why they're on contaminated land, why we're dealing with contaminated land when we hear about the Watchtower. So this is their headquarters, and it says they're building this massive 1.6 million world headquarters. So that must be the now building, the building now when you go Warwick, or right here. You see here? You can pull up the photos right here. So this is what it shows here on the internet, world headquarters. And that's I plugged in to the internet, Watchtower, Warwick. So this is an old article, and I'm assuming that that's a few years back when it was under construction. But to make a long story short, they sued the people that they bought the land off of because there was contamination in the soil. And when they went to get permits, the county said, you got to clean up your soil first. So now they were in a big lawsuit. I don't know what's happened to this lawsuit, but I was just trying to get a handle on it. But that's one of them. That's one of the issues when I pull up Watchtower and waste chemicals. So it's the land they were trying to build. Maybe it's the Ramapo. We'll talk about that. But now, this other article, and I like to look at the dates. It's always the dates that tell us. But this is just something here, a little summary of what we just read. It's been mentioned before that Warwick is a toxic dump, and now the JWs are suing a former owner for compensation. Well, this is huge on so many levels. One, they knew it was contaminated back a few years ago, so why move your headquarters there? So this is this article. Now, I don't know about the credibility on the story, so it's just some of my research. So, but let's read it because it's interesting. Number two, where was Jehovah in all this? Surely he should have told the F and DS's. What does that mean? I think he means the governing bodies. He got that wrong. It should be GB8. I think maybe back then they used a different acronym. They used F and DS's instead of, now they use GB8, right? I think I'm right? I'm kind of new at this. So, well, anyways, this guy says they told those guys not to buy this place. And number three, what's their real motives? Get this place confirmed as a toxic site and make billions off the cleanup, or just sue for compensation and hope their damages in the hundreds of millions higher when the court is told that this place was the JW headquarters. Another thing to consider as this story unfolds is its use as a form of TTATT. I mean, this would wake up some. God's organization moves to a toxic waste dump, and Jehovah doesn't tell them? This should get some J-dubs thinking. Anyways, anyone have information about this site should share it, and we all can stay up to date about this unfolding story. I have a feeling it's going to get good. So that was quite interesting. That's kind of another side to that story. Now, I started digging a little further, and this was from Texas, and that's the Watchtower Defense. That's the claimant right here. And I don't know, is this the Watchtower? And this is what they call their defense lawyer team? Anyways, I read this whole article. It was bizarre. It was about this lady, the owner of the Old Timer, and it says Miss something, hired Watchtower Defense to conduct pollution removal activities. So long story short, she has a gas station, from what I can see, a petrochemical, and someone damaged a tank and it spilled all this oil. And Watchtower Defense got the cleanup contract down in Texas. And there's a whole thing on here where it ended up in a claim. in the courts so that it's a public statement. But I didn't know the Watchtower ran around doing cleanup jobs for Miss Something, unless the Watchtower actually has ownership in some of these places. You know, like petrochem fuel. You know, they need oil. But I would be curious to see if anybody out there has any information on this. Okay, the next article I want to move to, this is the Watchtower caught dumping chemicals. Now, this is an old article. So for a lot of you out there, this is old news, but there's a lot of us coming out, waking up, and this is brand new news for us. Even though it's old, it's brand new. And I think why it's pertinent is that it's the Watchtower caught dumping chemicals. And so let's take a look at this. It was ironic to read that the Watchtower has been caught with illegally dumped chemicals, particularly after the self-adulation that appears in the Watchtower's own magazines. We're going to get into a little bit of that. So I just wanted to get into this thing. This is the Times Herald record. That's what this is based on, by Adam Bosch. Some from the Watchtower might say, oh, that's just apostate news. Well, it's the Times Herald. It's a local paper. You know, these guys aren't going to be too far off, are they? Let's see what they say. December 27th, 2011, 2 a.m. They even got the date and the time. That's good. Shawangunk. Now this is the area. I'm going to go to the map. Shawangunk, Watchtower Walk Hill, and this is this area. And we were looking at where the farms is, and there's a whole kind of a county there, and that's what it's called. But it's part of this Wallkill. Wallkill is actually this little town, and the Watchtower is actually outside of it. And you see this road here, Shawangunk Hill Road, or river. This is this river here, but this is what this article's pertaining to. So we're going to go back to the article. It's just nice to have a map and to kind of know what you're looking at. And we'll take a closer look at the farms here. It's just a big printing factory is what it looks like to me. I've never been one to travel on the bus and tour all those Watchtower farms. Remember those buses back in the day when I was a JW? You could buy tickets, and the one guy worked for me for a while, and he actually ran that tour bus and ran to New York, and he was telling me all about it. I think the exes and a bunch of her sisters did it, but I was never interested in doing that. But anyways, it could have been interesting. Now, this county, the state authorities are overseeing the investigation of chemicals and debris. Now, this is back in 2011, so it's back a while. But he says there was these chemicals and buried debris at the Watchtower farms. Now, the State Department of Environmental Conservation said that the pollution was found at 3 different sites on the 1,141 acre property. So they have a lot of land there. They have over 1,000 acres. You know, it's a good sized piece of land for hobby farmers. Each of the pollution sites covers roughly 2 acres. And the guy says, the DEC environmental engineer said that the hints of the contamination were found in 2007 while the organization was building an expansion. And they found some drums while digging the foundation for one of the residential facilities, he said. And what it says here is that the group, the witnesses, immediately reported the drums to the DEC. And an investigation found that several 55-gallon drums contained chemicals, including inks and solvents, that were used at Watchtower Printing Press off Red Mills Road. The gigantic printing operation dates back to the 1970s, and it produces all the religious literature the group distributes in North America. The drums contained benzene, xylene, and other chemicals that have been shown to affect human health. Construction debris and polluted soil was also uncovered at the sites. I'm just going to stop there because I want to say something. I'm wondering if there was a lot of sicknesses. I wonder, any of you guys out there hear of a lot of sicknesses at the Bethels at this place? Because, with all those chemicals. And even in the new Tuxedo Park, where they're dealing with all this old nickel mine, that they bought this property probably cheap, and now they're suing the nickel mine. That's interesting. And I'm wondering if people are getting sick. So now it goes on to say on this one that the DEC, and that's the Department of Chemicals or something, right? DEC, it's a government office. Most of you guys are maybe from the US, you'd know. But the DEC officials, the government officials, said it appears that Watchtower workers moved the toxic soil to these sites when printing chemicals spilled decades ago. Decades ago. Rutherford Days, Nor. I know those guys. We're doing, if you guys want to follow those, we're doing all these leaders. So we started with Russell, and we're doing it all on podcasts. And it's a lot of information. It's about an hour listen. So if you ever just want to lay back in bed and put your earphones on and listen to the history of these guys. We started with Russell. Rutherford's not done yet, and we will get into Nor. And I bet you will uncover some of this. But anyways, decades ago, they used the farm to bury chemicals. The government official says it appears that Watchtower workers moved the toxic soil to these sites when printing chemicals decades ago. Then they used farm machinery to aerate the soil and evaporate the contaminants. An investigation that began this month will determine the scope of the pollution and the cleanup options. Watchtower will have to pay for the cleanup. The cost has not yet been determined. The site is currently enrolled in the state brownfield cleanup program. So let's see what else happens here. It says this site is currently zoned blah 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 agricultural use during the 1960s and 1970s. Watchtower printing operations are reported to have involved on-site disposals of wastes, drums, and construction demolition debris prior to the 1960s. Uses included farmland and orchards. Depth to groundwater is 6 to 14 feet below the ground surface, and the groundwater flow is to the southwest. Soils are mostly brown and gray silty clay intermixed with gravel and construction demolition debris, example bricks, scrap metal, etc. The county is approximately the Shawangunk Kill, that's that river, that Shawangunk Kill, that's the river, is approximately 3,400 feet to the southwest. That's not too far. So here's a big river around this county, only 3,400 feet away, and this is just a big garbage dump. Do you see what they're saying here? So this Bethel Farms was just, they advertised this like paradise, but it was just a big garbage dump for the Watchtower Farms going a way back, and we're going to keep reading. Now, it says the river's only 3,400 feet away. 2 private reservoirs and 1 catchment basement are located 1,800 feet to the southwest. So these are basins that catch water. You see, and this is the problem with contamination. It gets into our water system. And our fish, we can't eat the fish out of any of our lakes, and it's because of culprits like the Watchtower Farms. And that's why we have an earth. Like here in Canada, we're supposed to have some of the cleanest rivers. We cannot eat the fish out of our lakes here because of this kind of stuff. So it goes on to talk about so this 1,800 feet to the southwest, and it serves as the Watchtower's drinking water source. So this is why I'm wondering about sickness within Bethel. Now, it says the Brownfield Cleanup Program application was approved by the Department of Environmental Conservation on this application. So I read another article, and we'll get into this because we're uncovering all of this stuff over time. We just can't do it all in one sitting. But I read in another article where this farm goes back to the 1800s. This farm, and JWs have owned this farm, Bible students or whatever. But it all goes a way back. So we don't know how long this farm has buried chemicals, and what a disaster, what a shame. Now, what I wanted to look at, and this is just another article on it. There's lots of stuff on this. But what I want to look at is this. I want to look at this award. So this is right on JW.org, Jehovah's Witnesses, JW.org. And Jehovah's Witnesses receive an award for protecting the environment. So isn't this something? And this is what they put on their websites because, and there's other ones I've seen. It says the printing facilities operated by Jehovah's Witnesses in Mexico received the Clean Enterprise Certificate for the 7th year in a row. So they talk about this. So oftentimes I wonder, they got caught in the U.S. burying chemicals, and here they got the Clean Award. You wonder what they're doing with the chemicals down there, or did they learn their lesson? That's a good question, isn't it? So that's yet to be seen. We know when we read God's Word, the Bible, that everything that is hidden will be revealed. And isn't that what we see? We're living in the time, you and I, with this internet, everything is coming to light. So yeah, every day there is new light. New light. Every day. So it's interesting. So this is another article, Warwick and Wallkill. Just curious on what they were just some discussions about the two. And lots of stuff. We start looking at the map. They own a lot of property, and it's beautiful property. We look at some of these properties. This is the farms, and there's I don't know who out there has been to the Watchtower Farms, but this is what it looks like, and some beautiful properties. They do a lot of training there. I'm not sure how they split it all up. I got out of it. Even when I was in the organization, I didn't pay much attention to this stuff. So there we have it. This is the headquarters, Tuxedo Park, and the world headquarters. This is what it looks like. This is inside. It's a big place. Perhaps a few of you have been in there looking at it. It's like a museum. In case you don't know what this is the purple triangles. The prisons from Germany. Little point of interest there. In Germany, there was 1,400 Jehovah's Witnesses, something around that died, and through that German Holocaust, there was 3 million. So 1,400, but there was 3 million Catholics that died, and of the Catholics that died, 1,800 of them were priests, like priests and bishops of the Catholic. That's very high up. That's like governing body status. That's like taking all the world the headquarters top guys and just torturing, killing them ones for sure. And then you hear the conspiracy side of it, where Hitler was led out of Germany by the Catholics, by something. There's so many stories, you don't know what you should believe. But on this one here, like Jehovah's Witnesses make us believe that they're the only ones that died in this concentration camps, and they weren't. There's a lot of people that did. But anyways, that's just a side note. Here's again back to the beautiful big property. And this is one where apparently they were having problems. There was a nickel mine or something here. And I'm thinking this is the one that's... look at that big assembly hall. So, there's those new characters. Some nice shots, nice, this is right on their right on Google, so it's all populated by Jehovah's Witnesses for sure. So I wanted to know about Ramapo. Ramapo. Where is it? Is it connected? Is it in the same county? Well, it's in the same county. So where did I get some information on that? Warwick. Headquarter project in Ramapo. So here's another article on it. So it's a town. This Ramapo is a little town. This looks like a conceptual picture on this one. I'm not sure. There's a whole thing there. And this article goes back to 2022, September 29, 2022. And it's done by... this isn't a JW article. This is RCBJ, I think. It's a news article, is what this is. So I was looking at this. It's a proposed 1.7 million square foot project. So this must be the project or where the nickel mine is. Maybe this is the project they were having trouble with, the nickel mine and the buried chemicals. I'm not sure. Perhaps you guys know. But the proposed development located here, it's located on Sterling Mine Road. So I'm thinking this is the property where this nickel mine was, and now they're suing the nickel mine to clean the property up. That makes more sense. And it's located in the town of Ramapo, Rockland County. And 7 acres are located in the town of Tuxedo, Orange County. So they bought some land in the town. And the proposal calls for building a 1.7 million square foot facility on this 250 acres. And in response to the concerns over the scope of the project, the applicant has proposed building heights of up to 75 feet in exchange for designated half the acreage as open space. So they had to work around some county roadblocks. And what else do they have here? I don't want to read it all. They're just moving forward. Moving forward, the town board is lead agency with input from other affected town, county, and state agencies. Will review the findings, the environmental impacts, proposed mitigation efforts, and proposed alternatives, and make a decision about approving the MU3 zone change to the comprehensive plan, ultimately to give its approval to the proposed project. So they must have, they purchased the land in 2009 for $11.5 million. And yeah, interesting. So I didn't get into it too deep myself. Now let's go back. Where was this other article? Right here, right here. Yeah, right here. So this was another article. The Ramapo residents can offer Ramapo officials their views on Jehovah's Witnesses' planned mega audio-visual dormitory complex and the development's environmental impacts. So a written comment period is open, and the board will host virtual public hearings. Now this article goes back to January 10th here, January 20th, 2023. That's when this newscast is. That's something different. It's advertising, sorry. So this was published May 21st, 2021. So that's this article's 2 years old. It's old news, really. But to me, it was new news. So this was another visual concept. That's what interested me, is what does this place look like? Maybe it's half built now. So I'm going to be searching around to see what other information is on this, and put together some more of this, what happened on those lawsuits regarding the nickel mine. It's quite interesting. So that brings us to a close on the environmental news. And the one thing that I want everyone to remember is that Jehovah's Witnesses receive an award for protecting the environment. So we want to keep that in mind. We'll move on to, we talked a little bit earlier, and I'm going to go to the chat line just to see what everyone's saying. And my screen changes, so I forgot how to pull my chat up on the side. My wife is back, but it's not important. I don't have time to look at these chats too much. But Todd Hayes, great job. Thank you, buddy. David, who else is on there? Lou Jean B7, hello. Smiley face. Daniel, yeah, I already said hi to Sherry and everybody, and Lou, and everyone's there. So let's carry on. I wanted to talk to everyone about about the, remember we were talking about a helpline and a hotline. And I'm not going to make this a long program this evening because this is going to be a continual working thing. And I think as this community progresses, we need to have something. And for a few of us tonight, we were on line Saturday Night Live. We do a Saturday Night Live. We tune in to Rick Farron. And he has a whole selection of stuff. And we've kind of made that our Saturday Night Live. Like, that's entertainment. And we get tired of Netflix. We get tired of, I don't know what the Amazon one. They're all the same, right, to me? You can only watch so many shows, and half the shows you don't even want to watch. It's just violence. Like, to me, I'm a big believer of what we put into our mind, whether it's fictional or non-fiction. It's important that we monitor that like food, because our mind it just absorbs this stuff, and it believes. Sometimes our mind has a hard time separating fiction, reality, and we end up living in these fantasy worlds, and we forget that we have all of this stuff around us, right in front of us. And isn't that what God says is the gift? It's the present, living in the present. But that's not what this is about. We were talking about helping people, and we had a lady an ex-Jehovah's Witness that was really distraught and crying and upset, and we need a helpline. Now, my wife and I, and mostly my wife, she does a lot of this work in the background, we're looking at, there's Talk Suicide. So there's Talk Suicide Canada, there's an 800 number, there's different languages, English, French, learn more. And all you have to do is call it. You can even call off your internet or your smartphone. And it's that easy to get help. And we recommend that. Everyone recommends that. If you're distraught, if you're thinking thoughts where you don't want to live anymore, don't wait until you get the knife out of the drawer or something. Like, call this number. And there's professionals there. And they could be ex-JWs, because this is something I think we're going to start pushing more and more of. So that when you call these suicide lines, what faith are you or whatever, well, a trained person as an ex-JW would be trained on helping people. Now, why would you use an ex-JW versus a JW? Because the ex-JWs are trained on what we're going to talk about next. And what we're talking about next is cult recovery. And this is a big thing now. It's starting. And this is all over the U.S. I'm not going to go through this in detail. My wife and I looked at this one. And there's therapists and cult specialists. Now, the problem I have, probably a lot of ex-JWs or JWs would have, is no one really considers the Jehovah's Witness religion to be a cult. Now, we're going to do a test here in a bit together. But anyways, there's all of this stuff arranged here all over, and it's starting. Cult recovery, intervention, wellspring retreat resort. Canada, there's a place in Canada and Sweden. Now we tapped into the US one here, and there was just lists and lists and lists going from state to state to state where you can get a lot of help. There's Australia in here. It's cult recovery, and you can look at it yourselves. Now, I had more fun. My wife and I had more fun with this one here. Right here, Cult Escape. So this is another one. It's just cult-escape.com, and this is one to take a look at, and it's a big thing. And this guy, we went through the whole site, and this guy was in a cult. Right here, this guy right here. I have my cursor on him, and there's this book. He put his whole book for free online. He says, see the full playlist here for this book. He just wants to help people. And he goes on to say, hi, I'm John Spinks. I'm a cult survivor, fortunate enough to have been able to turn my negative past into a positive experience. And I think that's the real key, and this is what cult survivors are finding. Can we turn our negative past into a positive experience into the future? And I say yes, I agree with these guys. So these guys are going to have it. Now, we went and looked at this guy. This guy was in a different kind of a cult. It was a 45,000 member cult, and his member was a Savagely group. And He says he managed to escape. He was 22. He lost his family, but now he started this cult escape campaign, and he grew up like with this false identity. There's a whole story on him. I encourage you to look at this. But what we're going to look at, what we liked about this site, is right here. Are you in a religious cult? Take the test anonymously. So you can take this test anonymously. No one has to know you're taking this test. And you take the cult test, and this is the cult test that puts you into this page. And after the test, click here to visit the Cult Escape YouTube channel. So you can go and check his YouTube out, and you can listen to his book for free. Like, this guy is really trying to help people. And he goes on to say, are you in a religious cult? Take the test. So here we are. Cults begin or evolve with a charismatic leader who claims supreme knowledge. These leaders are able to influence their followers to believe their perspectives and obey their dictates. Doesn't this sound like Russell, Rutherford, and Knorr? And now today a group is taken on by groups of men. So number one, is your leader the ultimate authority of your group? I would have to say the governing body is the ultimate authority of the group, and I'd have to say yes. Now number two, most cult leaders give themselves impressive made-up names or titles, which elevate their status to their followers. They may call themselves the man of God, pastor, prophet, messiah, messenger, enlightened teacher, guru, apostle, etc. Does your leader have impressive made-up names or titles? Well, what do you guys think? Would governing body, the faithful slave, would that be a made-up little name title that's only for them? You know, it used to be all the anointed were the faithful slave, but they changed it so many times over the years. Now it's just 10 members now. The 11th guy didn't make it. You'd have to watch the video. Does your leader have impressive made-up names? Yeah, these guys are big into that. We're the anointed. We're the faithful slave. Cult leaders convince members to forfeit their critical thinking ability in return for a sense of belonging, authority, and purpose. So they convince members to forfeit their critical thinking ability because the faithful slave is a channel to Jehovah. Yep. It says to members, it doesn't matter what the evidence or logic may suggest, the leader is always right. Is the governing body always right? Yes. If you go against them, you get disfellowshipped. Yeah, you're an apostate. So the leader's always right, and their misdeeds are always justified. So are their misdeeds justified? You know, they can go into liquor stores, buy $1,000 worth of liquor off donated money, stuff like that. It's justified. Absolutely. Criticism of the leaders is forbidden. Yeah, if you were in the organization and you talked like I'm talking right now, you'd be in an elders meeting and disfellowship the next day, for sure. Now, is your leader always right and therefore you are not allowed to criticize him, her, or even if the criticism is true? Absolutely. That's a yes, number 3. So far, 3 out of 3. So here's number 4. Cults generally only allow their members to study their organization through approved sources. They view critical thinking as an infectious disease, and every effort is made to suppress it. Doubting members are encouraged to isolate themselves from outside influences and focus solely on the doctrines of the cult. People who contradict the cult are viewed as persecutors and are often given labels like anti, apostate, or rival. Members are discouraged from consuming any material that is critical of the group. So number 4, are members of your group discouraged from reading anything that is critical of the group? Definitely yes for Jehovah's Witnesses. I can't answer for the other religions, but I can for the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now number 5, because religious cults consider themselves the ultimate authority on truth. It's funny they use that word, and this guy wasn't JW or anything. Now, because they consider themselves the ultimate authority on truth, the members can't imagine anybody leaving the group with their integrity intact. Thus, they have to perpetuate a false narrative that former members were deceived, backslidden, demonic, bitter, evil, or fallen away. Isn't that interesting? And you see, that's what happened in my situation. They labeled me as demonic because I was looking at some of my indigenous roots, and the indigenous people are considered to be people of the earth, Mother Earth, Wicca kind of stuff. But not Wicca that you might think, but it's more earth-like. And that's not considered good in a Jehovah's Witness or an elder's mind. So yes, as far as your group is concerned, would they say that there is no legitimate reason to leave them? That's what Jehovah's Witnesses say, that they have the truth. Why would you leave? Why would you leave the truth? They used to tell me, if there's anything better, show it to me. I'll go. If there's a better truth, show it to me. That's what they used to say, but no one wants to leave. Number 5's a yes. Number 6. Does your group insist that the end of the world is near? You'd think this guy was a JW. I guess other cults use the same stuff. Maybe they've copied the JWs. The JWs are doing such a good job. The guy gets you awake in the Watchtower, and then he builds his own cult. It was only a 45,000 member cult this guy was in. Now, it says, does your group insist the end of the world is near? Cults position themselves as a sole refuge from an evil outside world that is intent on their destruction. Cults thrive on conspiracy theories, catastrophic thinking, and persecution complexes. In an effort to draw in more paying members, cults are often very aggressive in their recruitment efforts, which are usually justified as saving people from the evil world. Doesn't that ring some bells? Those who reject the cult's message are condemned, unelected, damned, evil, goats, and the great unwashed, etc. Sure sounds familiar. So number 6, is your group suspicious about the outside world? Absolutely, the JWs are. Wow, 6 out of 6 so far, guys. Number 7, cults all believe they are right. They are the right group with the right doctrine and the right leaders and the right interpretation of their holy book, and their leader is right in dictating what laws and rules they are to obey. Number 7, does your group believe that they are the right religion group, church, or the right ones, or the only ones who have the right teaching and the right doctrine? Absolutely. The JWs believe that to a T. 8. Cults exercise control over their followers. The leaders determines the rules, the laws, and expects them to obey, or else there are consequences. Rules and laws can include what you can't wear, where you can't live, who you can't eat with, who you can't marry, what job you can't do, who you can't keep company with, what education you can't receive, and what your stance is to those who have left the group, and many more. Wow. All about can'ts, and that is exactly it. In the Jehovah's Witness religion, there's rules and laws that you have to dress a certain way. In fact, you couldn't be hooked up onto Zoom unless you had a collared shirt, even if you're studying or associated. If you're studying or associated and you just had a t-shirt on, you can't hook up to Zoom. You can hook up, but no one can see you. You can't show your face. That was the rules here in Canada. That's what my buddy told me that was studying. And he quit because of that rule. That was one of the things that made him quit. So rules and laws that include what you can't wear, where you can't live. I don't know about the live part, but who you can't eat with for sure. You can't eat with, if your mom or dad or your children are disfellowshipped, you can't eat with them. Yeah. Even if they're your kids. You can't. So I had disfellowship people in my house, and I'd sit at the table, and the disfellowship individual would go and eat in the living room watching TV because that was the rules. That's what the elders made the rules were. You can't eat with them. You can't pray with them. Isn't that sad? Like right within the home, it causes a division, and that's one of the problems with these cults. Now they talk about you can't eat with, who you can't marry. If there's someone that you're in love with and they're just an unbaptized JW. They call them what do they call them? You're an unbaptized witness, right? You're an unbaptized publisher. So you're publishing, but you're just not baptized yet. But you're baptized. You can't marry them. They won't let you marry them. I tried when I was 18 and it doesn't work. You get disfellowship. That's what happens. So I know that from experience. What job you can't do? Yeah. If you wanted to be a policeman, you can't be a policeman because that involves having a gun. If you wanted to be a forest ranger, you couldn't be a forest ranger because that involves having a gun. You could have an office job, paperwork, but you can't have certain jobs. Who you can't keep company with. Yeah, when you're disfellowship, they will determine who you're going to associate with, and you can only associate with inside. You can't associate with outside worldly people, or you're going to get counseled by the elders. What education you can't receive. If you were even to try to go to university and get an education, you're going to be an outcast. They don't want you to have an education. They want to keep the people stupid. I shouldn't use that word, excuse me. Take that back. Beep. They want to keep the people uneducated. And that's what we see happening there. What your stance is to those who have left the group and many more. So, number 8, are there any of the above such rules, laws in your group? Well, just about all of them except the one where you can't live. So they fit that one. Definitely 8. Now, number 9, emotional separation. Cults are not happy when members leave, primarily because they think there is never a legitimate reason to leave. Therefore, those who leave are treated negatively. Remaining members, even family members, distance themselves emotionally, often shunning and ostracizing ex-members. They now see them as unclean, evil, deceived, apostate, an opposer, etc. And that is definitely what happens. Number 9. So here's the question. If you were to leave your religious group, would remaining members, even family members, separate themselves from you, whereby there would be any emotional detachment? So let's read that again. Even family members separate themselves from you, whereby there would be any emotional detachment. Yes. So if you left the religious group, you would be leaving. If you leave the Jehovah's Witness organization, you leave everything. You leave your family, you leave your children. If you're children, you leave your parents, your relatives, your friends. And you have no worldly association on the other side because you were instructed not to have those worldly associations. And so you have very few. If you have a few, maybe they're at work, but very few. And if they're at work, they're not good ones because you weren't allowed to go to the work picnics and the work Christmas party and the work Halloween party, and you weren't allowed. So your connections are very sketchy. And when you get out, you're on your own. We're going to talk about that in a bit here. It's tough. So definitely a 9 is a yes. Now, we're going to go on. Number 10 is the physical separation. This is the last one, by the way, so it's not going to go on forever. Physical separation. Cults separate families, and this is how it works. A member of the family leaves. The cult now separates the remaining family members with laws and rules. These dictate they can now no longer have normal family life with that member who has left. For example, they are no longer allowed to freely eat and drink with them. They are no longer allowed to stay or live with them. They are no longer allowed to go on a holiday with them. They are no longer allowed to celebrate the birth of their children or go to their wedding, while Jehovah's Witnesses aren't even allowed to do a birthday. And they are no longer allowed to fully join in any funeral arrangements. And that's the thing. You can't even bury... If you're disfellowshipped, there's this religion you did your whole life. They're not even going to help you at the funeral. We'll talk about that. You do your own funerals. I've did 3 funerals, and it's you just talk about your family. You can do slides, pictures. It's really about the family, the funerals. And if they're religious a bit, then you include a few scriptures. But funerals and we can do them in funeral homes. We don't need churches and we don't need ministers. And funeral parlors are all set up for families to do their own funerals. And we've done all of our own. Now, They are no longer allowed to celebrate birthdays or special occasions with them. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that, but you can't go in Memorial Night, the most important night of the year, and sit down and have a conversation with all your friends because you're disfellowshipped. Can't do that. They are no longer allowed to go shopping with them, and they are no longer allowed to contact them. Does that sound like being disfellowshipped? So this is off a non-JW. This is off this guy did not have a Jehovah's Witness experience, and he wrote this book on cult escape, but you would think that this is a mirror of the Jehovah's Witness feeling. So number 10, here's the question, the last question. If you were to leave your religious group, would remaining members separate themselves from you and cease to have normal family life, as in any of the above examples? So it talks about, just in any, maybe a few. Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses cover off on every one of them. Every one of them. So it's a big yes. So now we continue on this thing, and it's doing a little circle there, so it's the little computer's doing the work to see how bad of a cult we're in. And it says, from what you have answered, 10 out of 10 cult characteristics appear to be in your group. You can now choose to find out more, or you can choose to do nothing and go back to the main menu. So here you are, folks. You're here. This is all on your own, and no one's looking. You still go to the Kingdom Hall, but you know that it's a cult. Now you know. And now what do I do? Do I go further? It's scary. It's scary to go further. Let's go further. I'm going to take you with me. It's not that scary. I'm just teasing you. So you can go back and do nothing, or you can continue. So I chose to continue, and we want to find out more. So there's 3 possibilities to consider right now. We're in a cult. We can remain in the cult. So we're going to click that. What if I want to remain in the cult? So for many of you online, perhaps you're still in the Jehovah's Witness religion. You can't quite get out. Let's look at this. This might be something. We're going to remain in it. You want to remain in your group. I know what it's like to want to remain in a group, even though part of me wanted to leave. My struggle with making up my mind lasted 4 years. It took me that long to come to terms with the thought of possibly not seeing my family ever again. There are many reasons why people want to remain, even after discovering their group is cultic. I hope this article will help you to come to a place of peace and single-mindedness about where you are, at least for now, even if you find you have to take only one day at a time. Maybe one of the biggest reasons not to leave your group, even if you believe it is cultic, is part of your family could remain, which would cause separation, either emotionally, physically, or both. This can be one of the hardest decisions to make. What comes first, family or freedom from the cult? Every situation and circumstance is different, so there is no one single answer for all. 4 possible variations could be. Now, I'm not going to read all this. It's quite interesting, and I really like how this guy talks. So for a lot of you out there, maybe leaving is not the right thing to do yet. And read through this. You could stay with your family, and you could stay and change. You could sow seeds of discussion and research that might eventually help your family members. I think this whole Jehovah's Witness cult is just going to slowly dissipate, and then it's just going to. And there's going to be a lot of people within, like perhaps some of you online are in still, and you're going to serve a real good purpose in helping lots. But you're awake, you're looking at this stuff, you're still online talking and listening to me, so you're still interested. But this is not scary. It shouldn't be scary to anybody, and I encourage all of you to look. So now what I'm going to do here, we get to the back and it says I can go back and remain and leave options, or I can return to the main menu. So I'm going to go back and let's look at these other options. What if I want to leave? That's a big decision. But let's see what this guy says. This is what he says. You believe your group is a cult and you want to leave. He says, I personally know exactly how it feels. My journey took 4 years to get to the place where I hit my tipping point. I had no one to talk to during those years. I left on my own, knowing no one. I would not advise that if at all possible. Ideally, find other people who have been in a similar situation and even get in touch with them. So I get it. If both sides of your family are JWs and you're leaving and you're all alone and you have no one, that's a tough place to be. Now, when I left, I had worldly family. My family was worldly, so I'd go stay with my mom. She just loved me to be around her all the time. But I had family. I had places to go. They didn't understand, what it was like, but at least I had someone to talk to. So if you have no one, that's a tough one. So it says nowadays there is a wealth of information from ex-cult members or cult survivors, as they are sometimes called. Type the cult we are into Google, YouTube, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Read books or e-books on the subject, join ex-cult groups online, and find out how others manage to navigate their way outside the group that controls them. So, and that's important because each group, if you're online and maybe you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you're of another group, well, read some books on that group, and you're going to find a wealth of knowledge about each organized religion, because every organized religion is going to fit some of the cult stuff here. I bet you if you're Catholic, you punch in, you might not hit as many targets, but you might hit a few, because they do excommunicate, and there's a few things there. Now, the Mormons certainly fit a lot of it, and so does Seventh-day Adventists, just like the JWs. Now, nowadays, there's a lot of... so he says, I wish you well. The journey to healing and freedom is well worth pursuing. And he says, now one of the best articles on this subject I have come across is from the organization called Cult Watch, right here. And we're not going to open that up today, but you can go onto this guy's site and check all of this out. How to leave and recover from a religious cult, seek outside assistance, breaking the news to the group, how to do that. That's a hard thing. I recommend just put a note in the contribution box and walk out. I just never went back. I just didn't bother. They sent elders out, and I told the elders I'm not interested. I think I used a couple beep words that I couldn't use on YouTube, but at that time I had a lot of issues, and I wasn't probably a good guy to talk to for them. So they probably put me on a do not call list, I'm sure, because no one ever came out since then. And they're supposed to come and see you once a year. I was actually expecting the shepherding call once a year, but no. You swear at them once and they're not coming back. Now, further contact with the group, document your dealings with them. Be careful on your contact with the group is what it's saying, and this guy gives you a lot of advice here. And document your dealings with the group. So some ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, when they leave, and let's say you got to go back in and you want to get your records or something, you might use your phone or put a head camera on and document it. I don't know. You have a right to document what's going on. Law enforcement, he says, we generally find that the law enforcement are of little use in most situations as no law has been broken. If you think one has, check with a lawyer. And on this channel, we were showing some of the shunning and discrimination and slander that was going on in Belgium, Bulgaria, I think, not sure. Some European countries on some of our episodes here, video episodes, and they were winning some lawsuits in some other countries. So I think that can come as we tackle it different. So you cannot sue them for shunning you. You cannot sue them for disfellowshipping you, but no one has a right to slander or discriminate you or I. And I think that's going to start to change. But this guy's saying check with a lawyer, don't waste a lot of time. Because you see, the problem wasting time on legal stuff is we create a lot of negative energy replaying this. And the Watchtower has a ton of lawyers. And you won't be rich enough to outbuy their lawyers. That's the problem. Now, the case of physical or sexual abuse are a different case and will elicit a response from the police. So there you go. So if there's any sexual abuse, definitely go to the police and go straight to the police and document all of that and get that going. It says if you've been documenting things, you should have some good proof of what's occurred. Start by contacting a lawyer, and this is sex abuse, and get their advice on how to report the group's actions to the police. So do that as quick as you can. In extreme cases of assault, either physical or sexual, go directly to the law enforcement as the time taken to report the offense can be a factor in getting a conviction. So time is of the essence. Is your work going to be affected? That we often wonder that. It says is your work likely? Are coworkers or your boss part of the group? Is that the case? So if you have workmates that are Jehovah's Witness, or you work for a Jehovah's Witness company, you could or most probably will lose your job. Most countries have laws around why people can and cannot be dismissed from their employment, and it may be worth talking to a lawyer about this. So don't be the first to quit. See if they bully you into quitting, and you can have a legal case. That's a good one too. Discrimination, very good one. So now, if your work is going to be affected, then ensure that you document everything, or as much as you can, with your coworkers, your boss, as this can be used in court if you decide to sue them for unfair or constructive dismissal. Again, Cult Watch are not lawyers, and we strongly recommend that you seek legal assistance over any employment dispute as soon as possible. We have had cases where an employee was pressured to join and remain in a cult because their boss or several coworkers were in it. One option to consider is finding another job as soon as possible. Ask yourself if you really want to stay around these kinds of people. So moving forward, it says one thing we'd suggest throughout this difficult process is seeing a counselor. And this is something that we kind of want to get going on the JW hotline. The JW community is some kind of a hotline that ones could call into and talk about how they feel. And a lot of it's just talking. And we would want to get trained and skilled ex-JWs, ones that perhaps have been disfellowshipped and have dealt with some of these traumas, and so they get a bit of training, and they so they know how to deal with these situations. So this is what we're working at on the channel. When we do these channels, it's hard for us. We're not counselors. I'm not a counselor by any means, but we do have experience in coming out of these cults. But professional counseling is a good idea, and one that can start from the very beginning. Now, we're going to put out a podcast here. We're going to probably release that right after we get offline here. And it's going to cover the question right here. It's my wife. Would I marry an ex-JW with what I know now? So I'll leave that for the podcast. And it's a good question. We come out as ex-JWs. Are we marrying material? Like, we think we're okay. In our minds, we think we're okay, but we're not. And that'll come out. There's a podcast on that. My wife she's been really honest. And this is what's good about this journey is being honest and really talking to one another and talking to someone about how we're feeling. So it says it's good to have someone independent to talk to, even outside your trusted circle of helpers, and continue this even once you're out, as recovery can take months or more probably years. So it's not a quick thing. You'll know when it feels right to stop. Some people who have a bad experience with a religious cult want nothing more to do with organized religion. Decide for yourself whether it was this group that was bad or whether it's put you off religion for good. If you do want to continue with your faith, then acknowledge to yourself that you have been wounded by this experience and may need to take a break from actively being involved. And when you find a new church, consider just being an attendee for a while before getting involved in anything within the church. And there's a whole section here, how to find a church, and final comments. So this is that part of it. I'm going to go back to leave options. So there's one more option. So that was, we covered remain and we covered leave. Now, how to escape the cult you were in, that's the third button. And how to escape it if you really want. It says this is a free sample chapter of the Cult Escape. You can also get the book free online with Amazon. So here it is. He goes on to talk about it, and I would encourage you. Now, most of these people, I noticed, they all have books. And it is easy to, it does seem to come natural when you get out of a cult to want to write a book. And that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about, is this book that I wrote. I don't know if you can see it here. There, right there. So this is this book that I wrote. It's To Heaven and Back in One Night. And to give you an idea of how this book is written and why I think it's a good book to help a person get out of a cult, is I'm going to play a little video I did. But first of all, before I play the video, I'm going to go back to the chat line here, and I'm going to look and see if who's talking on the chat line. So everyone's good? Okay, so you guys all stayed online, I guess, a few of you. But this broadcast will be publicized as all of the other ones are, of course. So we're gonna key in here now to this video, and then we're just gonna watch it. And I'm gonna take myself off the screen first here. Where are we? Webcam. So I'm gone. You can't see me anymore, but you can hear me. So I'm gonna pull up this, and I'm going to play it. And you'll let me know if it works, hon? Welcome back. My name is Vern, and the channel you're on is Fixing My Faith. I started this channel several months ago in order to help me fix my faith, and I used this channel as a form of documentation to really document the journey, and so I could go back, look at videos, see where I was mentally at certain stages of waking up. And what I come to realize, and a lot of this I wrote down. Now, what I come to realize that there's kind of seven stages to waking up, and when I think about it. If I was told, Vern, you have to go through Cult 101 recovery, what do I need that stuff for? It's not what it is. So here's a different approach. If we think of ourselves, perhaps we're inside the religion right now, and we're questioning a few things. So if we think of ourselves as inside of a cage, mentally, inside our minds, because it's really our minds that hold us captive. It's what our minds allow us to do. It's not that we're physically in a cage, we're not in jail or we're not incarcerated, but our minds tell us that we're in jail. We're held captive. And what holds us captive? Well, there's many things that hold us captive. This isn't where, and I've never taken a Cult 101 course. I don't know any of the theology behind who wrote that stuff, and I decided to do this video before I look at a bunch of other stuff, and just to share what worked for me. Here it is. The first lock, and I say there's 7 locks. There's 7 locks, 7 stages, however you want to say. For me, that's how it worked. And the first one I wrote down here is you. We're the first lock. So we unlock the journey. So right now, if you're on this channel, if you're watching this, you probably have already unlocked the first lock. It's probably, you're already on your journey. So the first one is about faith, courage, and us. Faith, courage, and us. You see, because the last and the final lock, and I'm going to tell you it right now, is fear. Fear is the very final lock that we have to unlock. And this is all fear-based. It's all one big lock. But inside, there's many little locks, and we have to go through stages and it takes a lot of courage. So the courage is, it unlocks a journey, and the courage is that we have to be able to walk away. And that's the courage. That's the faith. That's where it becomes us. And that's where we unlock some of our own internal power, because remember, we're made in God's image. And right now, if we're under a religion, if we're under the trance of any religion, religious doctrine out there, we're under a man's indoctrination, and we're basically working through him to form our belief system, to form what locks us and what controls us. So now the first stage is you have to walk away. So now the second lock is putting up with the spiritual darkness. So there's going to be a stage in time that it's just you and God, just me and God. And I have to be okay with that. I have to be able to unlock that lock and be okay with it's just me and God. And I'm in spiritual darkness. I don't know a lot. I walked outside that door, and I hope to straighten up my mind. In my case, I didn't want to look at the internet. So if you're looking at the internet, you're a couple stages ahead of where I was. And so I went through this spiritual darkness, and I experienced a lot of things. And this goes to lock number 3. And I found that lock number 3, I call it the test lock. We're going to get tested. And it just seems like we get tested. I don't know why. Maybe it's because we are thinking the worst. So if we're thinking the worst, Jesus says, whatever you sow, this you shall reap. So inside our minds, if we're sowing negative thoughts, maybe we could reap negative results. So we have to be careful what we allow, what kind of thoughts we allow to flow around in our heads, because these thoughts keep shackling us. They hold us hostage inside this cage, and we have to unlock these locks. So now the third one is the tests. And I found there was tests of morality, because we have built-in mechanisms. Now, of course, if you studied the Christian Bible, and if you studied the Hindu Bible, and if you studied the Muslim Bible, and I'm sure if you studied all the other beliefs on earth, there is morality within everyone's beliefs. So there will be tests of morality. And the biggest test is the test of loneliness. And it's just you and God. You're in this world. It's just you and God. And so maybe you get a dog or a bird or something, a cat, something like that. And you get a pet. And then you start talking to your pet. In my case, I had a horse, and I started talking to my horse a little bit. And the animals, they read our intent, and it could be any language. And in fact, there's a universal language, the language of intent, and we all speak it. You can be watching this program from another language, and maybe the words are coming across the screen, but you see my intent. You see, naturally, all human beings read the facial biometrics of a person's face. So our eyes go in certain directions when we're lying. Our eyes go in certain directions when we're thinking, trying to recall events from the past. There's a lot that our eyes tell us. And in fact, criminologists, policemen, in a lot of cases, are trained to watch people's eyes. And they ask very direct questions. So they'll ask, well, what's your name? Well, everyone's going to tell you your name, right? So they get a basis, a reference. They see where your eyes go. And if you're left-handed, it's completely opposite. So you find out if they're left or right-handed. And most people can do that by observation. So the police officer asks you for your registration and license. In Canada here, if you get pulled over, very first thing they want to know. And you're in the car, and you roll your window down, and you reach for it. Now they determine, are you right or left-handed? So now they determined you're right-handed. Well, your eyes are going to go in a certain direction when they ask you certain questions. And what I found, and all policemen are trained in this, I received some training in this. I'm in the security business, so we took a course, and it was about understanding people's eyes and their facial expression. So right now we have computer systems that do all of this automatically. Even online right now, the policemen have computer systems. They can run any of these YouTubes, and they can tell if a person's lying. Now, every person has telltale signs as to lying or to shifting the truth. And it's the poker hand. And you can watch any video and you can see the poker hand. And I've watched some videos off some of the apostate sites where they're featuring people that are finding loopholes in the Bible. And they're skeptics, right? They don't really believe in the Bible. And these are some of the atheists. And you'll find atheist ex-Jehovah's Witnesses on the site, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't be alarmed if you're new. These atheists, they claim to be atheists, but probably behind it all, they're spiritual beings. We're all spiritual beings. And we put up this shell, and it's like putting up a shell of religion. And we say, I'm atheist. And because we don't want anybody, so we want to push back all of the religious doctrines. We're just sick of it. And that's natural. That's a part of waking up. And that's a part of the process. And when we're in that we still haven't woken up fully, in my opinion, because we're still believe we have a religion, this atheism. And we're finding that many will go through a stage. I went through it 10 years. I spent 10 years. I pushed back everything, and I didn't want to believe in nothing. And so it's a stage of waking up. So this journey is not an overnight journey for any of us. Now, what we're hoping is that by us older ones experiencing these things, documenting it, and perhaps putting it into books and stories. In my case, I chose to, rather than give you the 7 steps to waking up, I didn't want any of that stuff. I'm not Anthony Robbins, and I don't want to be looked at as that. But what I did is I like the fictional journey. And I think for a lot of us, when we wake up, we have to get outside of everything. And we have to go way up and take a look down, almost like an out-of-body experience where you're looking down at yourself. And you see that there's 2 sides of you. You know, some days you're really a terrific guy. And then other days, you know, something happens and you're angry at something. And why do we keep getting angry when we shouldn't be? We look down at us. And then we find out, well, we haven't unlocked all the locks. There's more locks. So we start searching. Well, we're only on lock 3. We get all these tests, all these, just like Jesus got tested in the wilderness. We will get tested. And everyone's test is different. So we talk about that in the story. Now, we get to lock 4. And when we pass enough time, it seems like we get to what I call the promised land. And we get to this place where everything's different. And our eyes are blurry, though. We can't see it all yet. It's just too much. And you remember the scriptures talk about God will only give you what you can bear or what you can handle or receive at any given time. Well, I believe that's true. I believe we're made like that. We're made in God's image. We're made in a certain way to only experience and handle a certain amount at a certain time. So we all put shells around ourselves. I didn't want to be any part of a religion. If I checked into a hospital, when I left the Jehovah's Witness, I put no religion. You know, atheist, whatever they want to call you. There's just no. But yet, I go home and in my mind, I still believe in God. I still believe in Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever you want to call God. My intent is to connect with God. And we're talking about intent and police officers and how they read your poker hand. So they ask you if your date of birth, and you tell them because they have it on your license. You're going to tell them the truth, and they're watching your eyes. And then they say, "Did you know you were speeding?" And your eyes shift. "No, officer, I didn't know." "Okay, that's $120. I'm going to give you the maximum." Yeah, seriously. So this is a lesson, folks. The officer tests your eyes. He knows you're right-handed. He asks you a question. When you were born, you give him an accurate answer. He's reading it on your license. He sees your eyes. He's already got a basis, a line basis, and he knows his next question is going to be quick. Well, you know you were speeding. You know why you were pulled over, and the officer is going to ask it right out. "Did you know you were speeding?" Well, yeah, you know I did. I was in a hurry. I shouldn't have been, and my wife gets really pissed off at me when I'm late, and I have no excuse. I'm so sorry. I deserve a ticket. 9 out of 10 times he's not going to give you a ticket because you are honest, and that's all people want is honesty. That's all any of us want. So you can tell online if someone's, you can tell their poker hand. And I was watching, like I said, one of these other videos, and the guy keeps going like this. Then he talks for a long time, and then he goes like this. It's his poker hand. And he's not quite sure of what he's saying, but what's coming out of his mouth is like fact. And that's what you'll find with a lot of people that are trying to say they know it all, they have the truth, or I know that the Bible's crap because it's all stories, it's all this, it's all that. Well, yeah, you after watching one of those shows, if you want to be spiritual, you're done. You're an atheist, and it's true, because we tend to want to believe what we're told, and we got to look at the poker hand. We got to look for the signs, and we got to do our own research, and that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and even on the JW channel. I'll notice one apostate is talking about the Sabbath. Got to do it a certain way, and the other apostate's talking about, well, no, it's got to be on Saturdays, and the other guy says, well, who cares? And the next thing you know, they're showing each other's videos online, and they're having debates with but not with each other. You're pulling up another guy's video. Well, this guy says it's this way, but I believe it's this way. You see, what's happening is everyone's trying to form a religion. It's just another belief. It's just, well, Jehovah's Witnesses didn't do it quite right. They didn't do this. But we all should do this. You see, we're still in the trance. We're still in the religious trance. We still believe, and I'm going to scratch my head here because it's itchy, not because I have a sign. Usually my telltale sign, I'm going to give it to you. My nose gets itchy for some reason. And there might be a little bit of stuff there I can't back in what I'm saying when my nose gets itchy. And our bodies have a way of doing that. Our bodies have a way of telling the audience what's real. And you see, I think we're getting into a new awakening here. We have facial biometrics. We have the computers right now. YouTube knows who's telling the truth and who's not. It's automatic. And the biometrics are there. So we know when Jeffrey Jackson gets up and he's telling the truth or he's not telling the truth. You just have to look at his face. And you can hear it in his voice when he says, will you tell the truth, nothing but truth, so help me God? Well, when they got to tell nothing but the truth, you see how we say things in our voice, and our voices are like fingerprints as well. There's no two voices the same. It's like a fingerprint. And online, our voices have a signature. And this guy's voice and everyone's voice, you watch, we can ask the same thing with a question. So if we're under oath to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God, that's the intent. God, I'm in this court to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Or I'm in this court to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. You see, how we say things also implies our intent. And the courts aren't stupid. And that's why I say on this channel, don't worry about you having to do a lot of work. It's all happening right now. Religion's crumbling. People are leaving religion by the droves. But what's happening now, a lot of people are lost. A lot of people are not sure. And a lot of people are in stages, and they're working their way out of this trance. And it's locks. There's many little locks. If you're in Catholicism, it's going to be different locks. I know the JW ones, and that's what I talk about. So we got up to the promised land. Our eyes are blurry, and then we get to lock number 5, and that's where our eyes open up and we see it all, and we see God's promised land. Now we're outside of religion. We went through all the spiritual darkness, maybe years, I don't know. Every case is a little different. And hopefully online, with some of the stories and some of the sharing, this process will speed up for many. And I think stories help, fictional stories with some truth in it help. And it helps get our minds outside the box. Because if you really think about it, Russell and Rutherford and the whole JW picture today is a one big fictional story based on the Bible. Mormonism, one big fictional story based on the Bible. Catholicism, the same thing. Paul comes in and says, I had to extract a demon out of that girl. Well, all of a sudden, every Christian out there can point fingers and, well, that's demonized. That's demonized. Must be a demon in that person because they're not Christian. You see, Paul liked that stuff. And that's why when we look at the Bible, we know it was a certain amount manufactured to control people. Because what happened? You got a few people that believe in the land, they believe in energy, they believe in intent, kind of some of the stuff I'm talking about. And they burned them at the stake. Yeah, about 1,000 years CE, 1000 CE, and around that time. The Druids became extinct. We lost all of that information. The ancient Magi, where did they go? I'll be talking about that in future videos. I think it's fascinating that we learn. And these are little secrets inside the Bible that we can learn about these people. Where did they come from? Why did God give them a star to follow? And why did they come and give the 3 gifts to Jesus? And these were pagan people. They followed the stars, astrology. You see, but then Paul came by and all that stuff's evil. Burn them. You see, they had to control people. But so I look at religion, and we have to get outside of it all of this religious doctrine, all of it, every religion on earth, and then religion crumbles because we're tired of it. We're not going to allow religion to keep us in this cage, shackled, locked in inside our minds, in fear of the unknown, because they know, only they know. They claim that. Now, we get up to God's promised land, and we see it. And finally, we see that religion is just a business. All of these religions are a business, and the Bible is their mascot. All of them. Mormonism, everything. We did some research, and you have to do a little research. And now online, you can look at some people's videos, our videos. And we exposed a lot of this, and we showed that these guys are giving nothing to the charities. In Charity Canada, none of these religions are putting anything into charity. No registration. There was a Catholic home that had some stars because they were running some kind of a home. But who can trust that? Back in the beginning of the century, they were burying some of our native kids in this country. Religion. So who can trust this? And these governments, the government entrusted, paid the religions to look after these kids. So someone should have had some God-given sense to do something back then, but this was all done in the name of religion. So now we're outside of religion, and we're looking down, just as though Christ or God's looking down at all the religions. And what do you look for? Well, we look for the good in humanity, the good in people. And isn't that what the Bible says? God is not partial. God looks at each of us. So now we've developed this relationship with God outside of religion. We now get to talk to God personally, how we want to talk to God, because God reads our intent. It doesn't matter our language. It doesn't matter the name we give God. God knows from our heart our intent. And it's an unwritten language, our intent. These are languages that we can, thoughts and feelings that we can give, and our faces go like this, and you see the person's intent, and we go like this. There's different muscles that react to different thoughts and feelings within our minds. And this is really what we start to see. And we see people differently, and we see people for people. And we don't see people for their religious belief or their nationality or their color of skin. We see people, we see inside. And we see people, and we see that all people are loving, and all people have love. And once we start to see that, we start to step outside. You see, fear and love, and the scriptures talk about that. Fear and love, they don't mix. It's like oil and water; they don't mix. So fear is opposite of love. So now we find God's promise. We see that it's not inside of religion. God's promise is not inside of religion. And then we get to number 6. This is the exciting part. And we get to number 6. We have to unlock it. But it's the golden city. And if you're a Christian, we read the book of Revelation, it goes to the golden city. And we get inside the golden city, and it's fabulous. And this is where all the secrets are unveiled. And I won't tell you anymore. Because this is where it happens. Once you get into the golden city, and you see a lot of stuff, and everything starts to make sense. Because you've now unlocked all these locks. You got out of the cage, this cage that men have put you in, and you unlocked all these locks, and now you get to go into the Golden City. And from there, you get to see a lot of stuff. You still don't get to see what God sees, but you get to see a lot of stuff. And there's other gates. I haven't went that far, but that the Golden City, that was the 6th lock, and there's one 7th lock, one last lock. Once you're in the Golden City, there's a test, and there's a test. It's test your fear, and it's a one last test of your faith, and it's to overcome your fear. And it's where you have to free fall. And you have to free fall, and you have to trust. And you have to give up all of your other beliefs, everything that Rutherford taught, all the teachings on blood transfusions, all of those things were about men. And you've already did the research. You already know all of this stuff. You've already unveiled and unwrapped and unlocked all of those locks. And you get to this point now, you can free fall, and you can now just glide and surf. And it's like when Peter was walking on water. You remember he was walking on water, and Jesus was on the boat, and Jesus says, "Come to me, Peter." And Peter was focusing on Jesus. And as long as he was focused on Jesus, on God, on love, he could walk on water. And what happened? Well, a wave came up, and Peter looks, and it frightened him, and he fell in. And that's going to happen to us. We're going to fall in, and we're going to have moments of fear. And then Jesus is going to reach down and grab you. And that's trust. And that's free falling into God's hands. And that's really the end of the story. So I hope that helped you. Love is our destination. And we're made up of love. We're people of love. We're made up of love. And love is our final destination. And how do we get there? Well, there's 7 locks. So, folks, the story's in here. It's in a fictional story, and we're encouraging everyone. You can get it online as an ebook. You can order, if you don't like ebooks, you can order it. And most ebooks will read them to you in audio, I think. But I am going to, when I get some time, I'm going to make an audio book and read the whole book out, and that'll be available soon. But for now, you can get it hardback, and you can get it as an ebook. And it will take you to the destination of love. And that's what this book's about. Well, folks, until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now. Okay, so we're back on, and let me just go back up here and put myself back on there. How does this work again? There I am. And there we are. And we're back in New York. You ever watch David Letterman? Is that kind of too old for you, most of the audience out there? I used to watch David Letterman. And what I'm going to do here, just hold on here. I'm going to go to the webcam. And I don't like sitting there. I'm going to sit over here for a bit. You guys don't mind if I just sit here. There. So, yeah, I used to watch David Letterman, midnight or something, out in New York. And then other guys took over, so it's interesting. But now I see some of the comments, and I'm going to get out of here. Yeah, so I'm just getting used to this new studio, and the next thing we have is my good wife is working on pulling some Zoom in. So we can do it 2 ways. You notice there's a big screen over there. Yeah, you see. Over there. It's opposite on a green screen. So over there is... No, there. Yeah. See there? I got it right. Anyways, I'll get used to it. So over there, we could pull in, if you zoomed in, well, there's your picture. Everyone would see it, and you could talk. talk about things. You could tell me that I'm totally screwed up and you got a better way of doing things. I'm good for that. Seriously. So anyways, we're going to have some fun with this channel and open it up a little bit. I hope we pull in something like a JW hotline, so if people phone in and they don't have to Zoom in and they can phone in, we could just transfer them over to some ex-JW trained, and they don't even leave the line, and they get immediate help. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I think it starts with talk. It starts with us on this community, and we start talking about it, and then we figure out ways to build it. So what do we have for comments? Any comments tonight? Did tonight's broadcast catch you a little off guard? It is. It was a little bit way out there. 7 locks, 7 measures. If you read the book, it'll use the word measures, but tonight I used locks. You could call it whatever you want, stages. And some people use an illustration. It's a lock, and inside the lock there's tumblers. So if you're going to pick the lock to your brain, you gotta pick all the tumblers. And that's what the religion, the indoctrination of the religion is, to keep that lock locked so you don't go outside. But it's interesting once we go down this road and start looking at it. So what do we have for comments? Anything, hun? You took care of them all, right? We're good. So it's been a long evening, and I know we covered a lot of information. We covered toxic waste, the Watchtower, what it's doing. We're going to keep ourselves abreast with what's happening in the future. And like usual, if you folks know anything that's happening, send us a note. You can throw it right in the comments, and send us an email. Better yet, if you want to keep it private, and that's good. It's just mail at Gone with the Grid. Gone. Remember the movie Gone with the Wind? Gone with the Grid. That's how you remember it. .ca, not .com. .ca for Canada. So that's where we live. So, folks, until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.